A warm greetings to all. I welcome you to the international webinar on a global perspectives on gender equality, trends and future directions, organized by WDC in collaboration with IQAC of Royal College of Arts, Science and Commerce. Thank you all, the participants, for joining us. We are deeply. I request our principal, sir, Dr. Vikas Vaidya, to address the live participants. Over to you, sir.
Good evening to everyone. On behalf of Royal Higher Education Society's Royal College of Arts, Science and Commerce, I extend a warm welcome to our guest speakers, Dr. Yufi Adriani, Dr. Arjun Masanda, and all the participants. I take this opportunity to briefly mention about our college. Nestled at the heart of Mira Bhainder Township, Royal College, a dream project of our founder, Professor A. Lakdawala, was established in the year 1989. The mission statement of our institution is educational upliftment of poor and needy students, especially girls, from minority community. Our motto is empowerment through value education. The institution under the aegis of Royal Higher Education Society in Ismail Kanga Educational Campus has English medium girls' school, Urdu medium girls' school, and College of Education and Research for Women. Our college offers the programs of BA, BSc, BSc Computer Science, BCom, BMS, BAF, and MCom in Advanced Accountancy. A hallmark of our college has been the impeccable record of near 100% results at the university level every year since its inception. In 2019, the college has been reaccredited with an A grade by NAAC in its third cycle. Recently, in 2021, our college has been awarded the prestigious District Green Champion by the Ministry of Education, Government of India, for its beautiful Verdant campus and various green endeavors. I am confident this international webinar on a global perspective on gender equality, trends and future directions will be beneficial for everyone present here. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Ravishri Madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I call upon Dr. Momina to throw lights on the activities conducted by Women Development Cell.
Good evening to all. One of the mission of our college is to promote education for minority community with emphasis on girls' education and extend the same to other communities. Women Development Cell of our college works in tune with this mission. Women Development Cell of our college conduct program over the year on gender-related issues like awareness campaign on health and hygiene, eve teasing, violence against women, etc. And also women empowerment activities like self-defense, leadership, workshop in collaboration with NGOs, Miss Entrepreneur competition, to name a few. With this, I would now request Professor Malika Butwala, the Vice Principal and IQAC Coordinator of our college, to address the live participant. Over to you, Malika ma'am.
Thank you, Momina Miss. And on behalf of, again, the college, I extend once again a very warm welcome to our guest speakers and participants. To give a brief idea on why IQAC and WDC decided to have a webinar on this topic, I would just like to brief you all once again. Gender equality, while making positive strides, is being severely challenged in the current scenario. Organizations that track gender equality across a variety of parameters like health, economics, politics, and education have actually observed widespread inequality. In most recent gender gap report, the World Economic Forum claims that it will take more than a century to bridge the current gender gap. This international webinar, organized by IQAC and WDC of our college, seeks to explore the new inclusive definition of gender, its future implications in our society, and the journey towards achieving gender equality. I'm confident this webinar will be beneficial for everyone present over here. On this note, I request Dr. Momina to uh, give a brief introduction of our speakers. Over to you, Momina Miss.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we begin the session, an important announcement to all the participants. You may leave your questions in the live chat. Our resource person will do their best to address those. Secondly, link of the feedback form will be sent in the chat at the end of the session. Now I call upon Dr. Ravishri Mishra to introduce our first speaker. Over to you, Dr. Ravishri.
I'm glad to welcome Dr. Yufi Adriani, the speaker for the first session, A Global Perspective in Gender Equality, Trends in Gender Equality Studies. Dr. Yufi Adriani is Associate Professor, Department of Psychology, Sharif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta. She has worked in various capacities as Associate Researcher for World Database of Happiness, Erasmus University, Rotterdam, Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, Vice Dean for General Administration, Human Resource and Finance, Head of Psychological Laboratory, Associate Trainer and Psychologist. She is also a member of many international associations, like Indonesian Psychological Association, member of American Psychological Association, Australian Psychological Association, collaborator researcher in World of Happiness Database Record, Germany. She received various awards, to name a few: Best Presentation Award in Annual International Conference of Islamic Studies, Surabaya, Indonesia, and Scholarship in Community Indicators Research Certification Program, ISQOLS Conference, Rotterdam, Netherlands. She has numerous research papers and book publication to her credit. So without much ado, I call upon Dr. Yufi to take over. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ravishri. I'm so nervous. Okay, thank you. Good evening for all of you. I would like to say thank you very much for having me and Arjun in this international webinar. Especially, I would like to say my gratitude and thank you to the Dr. Vikas Vaidya. Sorry if my pronunciation is not correct, as the principal of a Royal College of Arts, Science and Commerce, and also Ms. Malika Botwala as a vice principal and coordinator of IQAC. And also my special thanks to the organizing committee, Ms. Rukma Nair, Dr. Ravishri Mishra, and also Ms. Momina Sirguro, and for all the participants who has attended this webinar. Good evening for all of you. And I hope this webinar will bring a lot of insight and inspiring for us to do the research, especially in gender studies. Allow me first to share my screen. Okay, I'm sorry, I forget. I would like to say hi to my fellow friends, Arjun. Yeah, we first met actually in one of an international conference in India at 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, hi Arjun, and been a very best friend ever since. So, okay, I would like to start my presentation now. Okay, so sorry. Okay, I hope all of you could see the screen clearly. Okay, so before when Miss Momina first time tried to contact me and asked me to address this issue as me and Arjel topics for this international webinar. Actually, we was very excited, and then me and Arjel discussed. So what will we bring in this international webinar regarding gender? So I will talk more about the trends in gender equality studies, and then Arjel will talk and discuss more further about the future of a gender and equality studies. So the title of my presentation today will be a global perspective in gender equality, trends in gender equality studies. So even though I've already introduced before, but I would like to introduce myself once more. So maybe all of you would like to know me more. So I'm UV. My name is actually UV Adriani, but people used to call me UV. I'm working as a lecturer, clinical psychologist, and also a researcher at Sarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University in Jakarta, Indonesia. So you can find me at uv.adriani at winjkt.ac.id. Okay, so first of all, before we discuss the trends in gender research studies, I would like to share the information about the Indonesia to all of you. Hopefully, all of you already been to Indonesia before. May I have your answer in the chat room? Is there any of you who already been to Indonesia before? Maybe Indonesia is in here, and I figured India is in here somewhere. Okay, is there any of you have been to Indonesia before? Okay, I think it's no one, right? So maybe next time in the future, after the pandemic ends, we can meet in Indonesia, because I've been to India. So I hope you can also visit Indonesia in some time. Okay, so this is Indonesia. So if you have heard about Bali, is one of the most favorite island in Indonesia. So this is Bali actually. The beach, I think it's close and quite similar with the beach in Goa in India, I think. I've been there when we visit India for the conference, so I think it's quite similar with the beach in Goa. Okay. Now let's discuss about our topic today. Actually, the topic about the gender studies or the gender issue is it's like a never-ending topic and always interesting to be discussed, especially in this pandemic situation when the socially norms change, and also maybe this pandemic situation also changed our perspective regarding the gender studies. And I think this is always be an interesting topic to be discussed in the future. And I think my colleague Arjel will discuss about this further in his presentation next after me. So in my part, before we go further about the trends in gender studies, I would like to ask you to let's review some concepts about the gender. So if you talk about the gender, it's not only about the sex. It's not only about your physical appearance as a man or a woman, but it's more than that. So the gender, according to a WHO, refers to the characteristic of women, men, girls, and boys that are socially constructed. This includes norms, behaviors, and roles associated with being a woman, man, girl, or boy, as well as a relationship with each other. As a social construct, gender varies from society to society and can change over time. So maybe the gender is about the role of being a man or being a woman, such as wife. So for a woman, you have a role as a wife, and also maybe as a daughter, or as a man, you have a role as a wage earners, maybe gitu, or as a husband and has a father of your children. There is a role, and the role of a gender, it might be different from time to time and from each country, because the gender affected by the social norms, the gender role, affected by the social norms, and also the culture itself from the country where you're living. So the next concept that I want to review and also define, it's about the gender equality itself. So our topic mostly about the gender equality. Gender equality is when people of all genders have equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities. For example, men and women live in a safe and equal society, have equal access to power. So if women won't be a member of a parliament, or maybe the woman want to become a president, so they will have a same opportunity with a man. And another example, when a man and woman treated with dignity, respect, and fairness. So this is the example of the gender equality. And there is also the definition of a gender inequality. Gender inequality means, or in other words, gender discrimination refers to unfair rights between male and female based on different gender roles, which leads to unequal treatment in life. So actually, when we now talking about the gender equality, the source few years back, people talk more about the gender inequality first, the gender discrimination, and then during the time and when people more aware about the gender inequality, and then they come up with the subject which is more positive, I think, more positive terms such as gender equality. Okay. The facts about the gender inequality. Gender inequality differs from other types of inequality in a significant ways. So we cannot tacitly assume that gender inequalities will trace the same path as other inequalities. And gender inequality exists when men or women enjoy a disproportionately large share of some value goods, such as political power or long life. So when we talk about the gender inequality, when we talk about the gender, the gender equality, we could see how how men and women share political power or also a long life. Okay, I have now some table. The first one is actually a survey conducted in like 1970. It's been like 50 years back, 52 years back. This is a survey of 135 countries. It's around 91% of world's population. So a total number of adults age 15 up is about 2,000. Sorry, this is in millions. And then total number of adult women, and total number of literate adults, and total number of literate adult women. So I think the gender inequality and also gender equality, it's been an interesting topic since a few years. Yeah, not a few years, since decades, few decades. So people already aware that men and women should have the same opportunity for and also have some, what do you call, some access to many sources. So in this table, it shows us that actually women, actually women and men have same almost the same ratio. This is like when we see the total number of literate adults is 1,374, and the literate adult woman is like below than a half. So, but it's still a good. I mean, people already aware that there is a differentiate between women and men on how they understand the literature. Okay, and this is the probability of survival from age 15 to age 60. So this is the country average and also the global average. So there is a significant, not significant, but yeah, quite significant increase between 1960 to 2000. The percentage change is 11.1%. So women in 2000 have a probability of have a bigger probability of survival from age 50 to age 60. So this is good. I think this is a good thing. I think this is a show that people more aware that gender equality is something that we should fight for, and we should also concern of the equality between the change and the access for men and women. Okay, and this is the 4 indicators that the United Nations uses to monitor progress toward the Millennium Development Goal of promoting gender equality and empowering women. So, when United Nations want to see how one country or specifically each country promote the gender equality and empowering women. So they will use these 4 indicators. The first one is they will see the ratio between of literate women to men age 15 to 24, and also ratio of girls to boys in primary, secondary, and tertiary education, and proportion of seats held by women in national parliaments. And also the last one is the proportion of wage earners in the non-agricultural sector who are women. So in this, the 4th indicators tell us that the ratio of the proportion of the women who work in the communication department, in the training and information facilities, or in electricity department. So it will give us give us more information about whether this country quite good in promoting gender equality and empowering women. Okay, now we will talk about the trends in gender equality and inequality. World trends over recent decades for key indicators of gender inequality in education. So when people want to see whether this country or whether this this society having an equality or inequality in gender, they will see how do they give the opportunity or the access to men and women both in education, and how the ratio of men and women mortality and political representation, and also the economic activity. This is also referred to the indicator that also been told by the United Nations in my previous slide about the woman who work in communication and in training and information facilities or in electricity department. So it will give us information whether the country promote the gender inequality or equality or not. Okay, and then gender equality and equity in education and society. What aspect of gender differences receiving high attention is related to STEM education? STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So if we give a very thorough observation regarding this, we can conclude that more men, the science, the technology, engineering, and mathematics is dominated more by men than women. Women more into the social studies, like maybe a psychologist, anthropology, sociology, or any or other social science. But currently, regarding to promote the gender equality, more women also take some important role in STEM education. For example, my daughter, for example, in Indonesia, my daughter is my daughter getting the first rank for the STEM education in the level of the educational in the level of junior high students. So currently more women also interesting to take a part in the STEM education. And UNESCO in 2017 reports on girls and women's education in STEM find that to date, girls are still underrepresented in choosing STEM disciplines for studying and as their career paths. So this is if we talk about gender differences in education system. So I would like to close my slide first, my presentation first, and I'm going to open the other presentation. So this is about most people believe gender equality has increased in their country. Sorry, I'd like to share this. Okay, I hope you can see this chart. So according to this chart, where are we? Okay, according to this chart, I mean, most people believe gender equality has increased in their country. So person who say over the past 20 years, equality between men and women in our country has. So if we see in these charts, most countries seen that gender equality has increased in their country. This is like Canada, US, and also there is Indonesia and India. Indonesia and India also perceive that and believe that gender equality has increased in their country. So in my country and also your country, and also in Philippines, but not as much as in Indonesia and India. So this is might be interesting. Maybe we can ask Arjun why the Philippines it's not big, the equality it's not increased same with the Indonesia and also in India. It might be an interesting topic to be discussed further. Okay, and I will close this. Okay, stop share, and I'm going back to my previous presentation. Okay. And then, okay, what does gender equality look like today? Because we talk about the trends in gender equality and also in gender studies. So if we see this, what does gender equality look like today? So today women are, so I take this from the UN Women book. So what does gender equality look like today? Women are restricted from working in certain jobs or industries in almost 50% of countries. So if we go back to my previous presentation, it shows that women, it's not really into the job or to the job that related with the science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. So it dominated more with a man on that side. So yeah, this is what we still see currently. And also in the first year of the pandemic, there were an estimated 1.4 million additional unintended pregnancies in lower and middle income countries. I think this is also including my country, Indonesia. Jadi when most people spend most of their time at home, and then more unintended pregnancies comes out during the pandemic. And also globally, 1 in 5 girls under 15 are growing up in extreme poverty, and this is still happen until now. And this is only about 1 in 10 senior managers in the rapidly growing renewable energy industry is a woman. And just 4% of clinical studies on COVID-19 treatments consider sex and or gender in their research. So this is what the gender studies trends like today. So even for the clinical studies on COVID-19 treatments, only 4% when they do the research, they consider the sex or the gender in their research. So now we move forward to the next slide. Best and worst countries for gender equality. So the first one is Iceland. This is the best one, I think, the highest one. And then the second one is Norway and Finland. And then there is an USA in the middle. And the last one in the bottom is Pakistan, Iraq, and Yemen. So if we see these 3 countries, Pakistan, Iraq, and Yemen, they claim that their country is an Islamic country. So they use the Islamic values as a guidance for their everyday life, and then and they perceive that Islamic values or Islamic guidance is put women below the man, so they don't have a same position or an equal role or equal position, but according to their perception, they perceive that women have a lower degree than a man. So this is, I think, this is why the Pakistan, Iraq, and Yemen have a lower, or we can see the worst country for gender equality. And then the next one, this is the example of keywords used to identify the gender-related papers for the aim of the literature. So when people talk or want to discuss more about the gender, they will see another related papers that which they can use to to give more information for their research. So they will use this keyword like such as bride, daughter, female, feminine, girl, lady, maid, mother, queen, widow, wife, woman. And for the equality, the keyword will be like bias, diversity, empower, equality, equity, homeworking, inclusion, quota, and also stereotype. And this is the example of the search words for the past 20 years of gender equality research. And also, this is the selected topic that used to be the famous search in the gender equality research. For example, the topic behavior, the description, behavior aspects related to gender, board of directors, women in board of directors, career progression, compensation, culture, decision-making, education, empowerment, entrepreneurship, family, feminine, governance, hiring, human capital, leadership, management, masculine network, organization, parenting, performance, personality, politics, reputation, role, sustainability, and also the well-being. And the last one is the top associations for the gender research. So when people talk or want to see about the behavior, they will try to relate it the behavior of the women and men in the social, in their work, in their how they making a decision, how they're involved in education, how they involve in human capital, parenting, performance. And when we will talk about the career progression of men and women, it also measured and involved about their role in the family, how they, when they become a leader. And also when we talk about the compensation, decision making, there is a lot of association topic that will be related to the main topic of our research about gender. This is the references that I use for this presentation. So I think that's all from me. Thank you very much. I hope it's useful. I give it back to Miss, which one? Ravisri. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yufi Adriani, for an edifying talk. I request all the participants, you can put your question in the live chat. We will take at the end of the session. Our second resource person is Dr. Arjun Masanda. He is an assistant professor and guidance counselor at Central Luzon State University. He is an academician, mentor, researcher, counselor, and an internationally renowned orator. He has numerous publications of books, research paper in peer-reviewed journal to his credit. He's a part-time professor at National University at Baliwag and part-time associate professor at Wesleyan University. He currently resides in Philippines. He will be focusing on gender equality, future direction, and discourses. We are delighted to have you with us live to interact with our live participant. We warmly welcome you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Madam Momina, for that very generous introduction. And it's definitely an honor and pleasure of me to be invited and be part of this momentous event from Royal College here in India. It's definitely a great honor from me to be sharing once again, okay, for I think third or fourth time this event with my very good friend, Dr. Yufi Adriani. And thank you so much again, Madam Mumina, Dr. Mishra, Dr. Vaidya, Dr. Buatwala, Dr. Rugma Nair, okay, and the rest of the committee members of this international event. Gender topic has always been, close to my heart, and I have been dealing with some work, okay, on gender equality, gender issues, gender and development in general, since I've started working professionally. And this is definitely one of the advocacies on top of mental health that we are pushing forward. All right, let me share with you my screen. Okay. Here, so the topic that I'll be discussing more with you is about the future directions and discourses in gender equality in general. All right. Again, my name is Arjun Masanda, and I'm a registered counselor and psychometrician here in my country. And I've been an ardent supporter, advocate, okay, and researcher in the field of mental health and gender studies. Okay, so let me share with you the outline of my presentation. And I hope we will be able to complement the presentation that Dr. Adriani shared to us in a little while. Okay, and we hope to bring new insights and knowledge to everyone so that, we would have the best of this opportunity that we are sharing virtually. Okay, so I'll be discussing more about gender equality as a global perspective. Okay, and then the future directions in gender equality, and the future discourses when it comes to the topic on gender equality. And lastly, yeah, now we're going to have some concluding thoughts and some Q&A, of course, which me and Dr. Yufi are going to do our best to answer your inquiries about these topics. All right, so let me start with this caricature. Okay, I always love this caricature, and I always start my, I start to deepen our discussion about gender through this caricature. As you can see here, okay, in this cartoon, somebody asked someone, "Is it a boy or a girl?" And the answer is quite wonderful. Okay, I don't know. It can't talk yet. Yeah. So what do we mean here? Are we referring to the sex organ of the baby, or are we referring to the degree of femininity and masculinity that the baby could have sooner or later in his or her life? So that's the main difference when it comes to sex and gender. Okay, when we say gender, we discuss basically of those socially constructed ideas, just like what Dr. Yupi mentioned to us. And when we talk about sex, we talk about it from the biological perspective, whether a person has a penis or a vagina, or the secondary sex characteristics, okay, the different gonads that we would have. So here, it says that we aren't just born with genders, but we are born into gender. All right. That is why our lives, according to Dorothy Smith, is engendered. All aspect of our being, both as a human, a man and a woman, okay, is always subjected to gender discourses. All right. So what do we get out of this picture that we are actually born into gender? Okay. Well, for majority of the part, same with Indonesia and India, here in my country, Philippines, our concept of gender and sexuality is actually blurred. Okay, meaning they tend to be conflated, and that's what we call gendered sexuality. That is to say that we define sexuality based on what gender we prefer. Or the opposite is also true. We look at gender based on the sexuality of the person, when in fact it might not always be necessarily correct. People who might be born with a penis, okay, could identify as a woman, and there is no, psychologically speaking, at least there is no problem with that. Okay, it is part of the gender identity of a person. And yet, we look at gender identity as if it should be equal with the sex characteristic of a person when he or she was born. That is why we look at it from the gender sexuality perspective. And, this tends to be problematic because our life, as we have said, okay, as I quoted Dr. Dorothy Smith, 1987, that our life in general is definitely gendered. Okay, we always look at it as something that you know can be considered, can be understood from the lens of gender. And this blurry understanding of what gender and sexuality, or what we call collectively as gendered sexuality, inevitably resulted to what we call gender inequality. We are not just talking here about penises and vaginas. We are talking here about the degree of femininity and masculinity that a person has. And certain society, especially for the third world countries like our countries, we have a very strict frontier when it comes to how gender should be equated to a man or a woman, especially for countries that are, I'm quite happy when it comes to our countries. We have, we can be considered religious. Philippines is a Christian country. India is correct me if I'm wrong, Hinduism dominated, all right? And Indonesia is Islamic country. And from that frontier, our religion, okay, have something to do a lot when it comes to our experience of gender inequality. And it becomes blurry, especially when we look at the history of development of sex and gender across the world, okay, from the global perspective. Even from time immemorial, gender inequality seems to be quite a concern. Okay, even before the time of Jesus Christ. So I'm talking from my perspective in Christianity, okay, as a Filipino Christian. But I'm pretty sure when it comes to history of your own religion back there in your country, in India and in Indonesia, gender inequality has always been a concern. Okay, so that's the global perspective that we are trying to highlight here and outline with you. And Dr. UP Adriani earlier have presented us with various data that actually equates to what gender inequality is, okay, right now here in the 21st century. It's quite appalling to see that and to realize that for thousands of years, okay, gender has already been an issue. And even now that the 21st century is around, we still experience inequality. Okay, perhaps because people are first not aware of it. Okay, secondly, they are not, properly guided or educated about these things. Okay, and their importance. And that is why events like this are very, very essential, crucial, okay, and important. That makes me and Dr. UP very ecstatic, okay, and excited to be part of. So once again, thank you so much for this opportunity to deliver a lecture with all of you about gender equality in general. Even though right now I'm showing to you the quite opposite of it. Okay, because the point that I'm trying to make is that it is a concern whether you are from sociology, psychology, economics, biology, chemistry, name it. Okay, you can always see some inequalities when it comes to gender associated with it. All right, so we cannot talk enough about those experiences that we have had, at least in the past, about it. So let's look forward more about how are we going to deal with it. All right, and that's basically the topic that I am sharing with all of you right now. And achieving gender equality, okay, for that matter, isn't just a moral issue. It is a moral issue because it talks about what is good, what is bad, what is right, and what is wrong. Okay, varying from different lenses. It might be from the legal lens, from the religious lens, from the personal lens, whatever it is. But more than that, it's not just a moral issue. It is also economic. Okay, the participation of men and women, okay, when it comes to economic growth, okay, and further development of country should be realized in order for us to actually move forward with the gender gap that Dr. Adriani had mentioned earlier. It is also political. Why is it that? Well, I think for majority of our government officials, say for example, in among the countries that we have now, Philippines, India, Indonesia, majority of our leaders are actually male dominated. Why? I even remember 3 years back, our president, Rodrigo Duterte, mentioned that being a president is not a task for women. And I am very, I'm very ardent about it, and I did not agree, and I still do not agree, and I will never agree that being the highest governing official of any country is not fit for women. It's probably just because you just don't want them to give enough opportunity. That's why the problem is political. Okay, it's also education and health related. Look at the educational system. How many men and women are actually studying? Earlier, we have heard about STEM being male dominated, and home economics being female dominated, things like that. Well, the question goes like, can a woman or cannot a woman be an engineer? Cannot a man be a cook, say for example? Okay, so all of these definitely can be studied from the lenses of gender. Okay, because gender equality, okay, take note, achieving gender equality enables society to thrive. Do we want to flourish more as a society? Do we want to flourish more as a nation? Then we have to work together and achieve equality for all right. And if we're going to look forward with it, not just equality but also gender equity, giving more to those who have less, okay, and not just those who are perceived to be subjugated by it, by those people who are subjugating gender, okay, as a concept. So let me move forward. So if that's the case, what's the problem? Okay, these are according to Davos. Although we are getting closer to gender parity, as introduced earlier during our initial session, for the past decades, we've been measuring the pace of change through the Global Gender Gap Report, and at the current rates, it would take the world another. This is what I think one of our organizers mentioned. Okay, another. Take note, 118 years or until 2133, okay, to close the economic gap entirely. So that would mean we will, well, I believe we won't be there anymore when it happens. But let's hope that, our grandchildren will experience this. Okay. In the 10 years of forum has been reporting on the gap between men and women in health, education, economic opportunity, and political representation, the gap has only narrowed by 4% overall. This is way too low, 4% only. Okay, because people are still denying certain genders certain opportunities. Okay, and progress towards wage equality has stalled in the wake of the global financial crisis. This means that although an additional 250 million women have entered the workforce, women are only now earning the amount men did in 2006. And since this data of mine was dated 2016, okay, because of the global pandemic, this has worsened. All right. A lot of those who were laid off from their work were actually women. Okay. And in other countries, women of colors. All right. And the gender gap disparity actually widened than it closes. Okay. That's very saddening to know. So this is the one that Dr. Adriani showed to us earlier. So the top 10 global gender gaps index. So Iceland, okay, is number 1. Well, I'm quite happy that my country, Philippines, is ranked number 7. Okay, but I'd like to shout out the Filipino people. We can do better. Okay, we can do more. Or same with the Indian people and the Indonesian people here. We can still do more. Okay, well, we're happy with the rank 7, but we can do more. That's the point. All right. So this is also one of the things that Dr. Adriani mentioned earlier. Majority of nations see gender equality as likely in their country. Okay. And India over here is very hopeful. Okay. You can see that there is 88% hope. Okay, by Indian people, followed same with us. Okay, here in the Philippines. Let's see where is Indonesia. It seems like Indonesia is not. There we go. There's Indonesia, 79. Okay, so we have Indonesia on the 79%. So meaning, all our countries are very hopeful that we are likely to achieve gender equality soon. Okay, but take note. Okay, psychologically speaking, there is a big difference between wanting it and doing it. All right. So we should be more on the doing. Okay. We should be more on the act rather than on just the intention per se. Okay. But it's good that we start with that. Okay. So now, given all of those global context, global perspective, what do we see now in the future of gender equality, as as an advocacy for all of us? So the vision for gender equality in the Asia and the Pacific are this. Okay, this is specifically targeted by the Asian Development Bank. Okay, their vision for gender equality by 2030. So that's quite 8 years from now. Okay, so all women and men and all girls and boys have equal capabilities, rights, and opportunities to enjoy healthy and productive lives and to contribute to their communities and societies. So it should not be now about what sex do you have, whether you have a penis or a vagina. You should be able to have equal rights, equal capabilities, equal opportunities so that all of us can be contributing members of our society. Just like what we have mentioned earlier, if we want to achieve, all right, if we want to achieve a thriving society, we must all work for it. And as we said, our intention is good, but we have to work out those intentions into actions. All right. So what else? What else do we see when it comes to this directions when it comes to gender equality? How are we going to basically achieve this? Okay, this goal that we have just mentioned. These are the different ways. Okay, first, we have to enhance gender capacity and strengthening gender network. So specifically, this would entail providing psychoeducational and social protection projects for those how do we say this, marginalized, okay, and stigmatized member of our community. So who are the marginalized? Most of the time, these are the poor, indigent women, okay, women of tribes, the LGBT people, okay, those are the stigmatized member of the society. So we must provide psychoeducational and a social protection project for them, okay, not just for the men who are, incarcerated, say for example, which of course is still part of providing and strengthening gender network. Another one is to provide comprehensive responses to gender-based violence. Okay, so how are we going to deal with those gender-based violence, especially involving young children? Okay, especially involving girls. All right. So do we have enough legislative measure, to protect them from harm, to protect them from crime? We should. Okay. And not just the legislative measure. Do we have any, say, comprehensive response like shelters to aid on those marginalized members of our society? And what do we do with the perpetrators? Should we just say incarcerate them slash kill them? I'm not favorable with the second one. So what responses should we actually, okay, provide both for the victims and the perpetrators? All right, so we should have, okay, so this is what we mean by enhancing gender capacity, okay, and strengthening our gender network. Second one, okay, economic empowerment. This would mean equal employment opportunities for men, women, and everyone in between. Creating safe and inclusive work environments, that this work is safe for all sexes, safe for all genders. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. It doesn't matter if you're a man acting like a woman or a woman acting like a man, because this is a work and this is where you have to be productive, and you should be. Okay, our society should be able to actually do that. Okay, economically empower all sectors of our society to become contributing member of our, okay, community through works. Okay, meaning they have to be able to be more productive about what they can do. Okay, third, safe and enabling infrastructures. So gender responsive and sustainable transportation systems, okay, should be created. Energy systems, cities and workplaces through its transport, energy, and urban development and private sector operations. This would include all infrastructures open for everyone, regardless whether you have a penis or a vagina. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You know, here in the Philippines, we tend to have all gender CR. You know, in my university that I graduated from in my doctorate, I'm quite happy that, you know, we have what we call all gender CR. Okay, CR, comfort room. Okay, toilets, all gender toilets, meaning you can use the toilet whether you're a man, a woman, or anyone somewhere in between. You know, because I believe in our houses, we only have one comfort rooms. We only have one toilet. We don't have toilets for mama. We don't have toilets for papa. Our toilets is also for everyone, mama, papa, brother, and sister. So why can't we have it, say, for example, in our infrastructures around the cities, the communities? Okay, we just have to enable it. Okay, people, okay, we have to enable people through their beliefs and understanding about these concepts, and we have to make it a safe environment for all. Okay, by, say, making legislative measures, educating people, providing social supports, the one we have mentioned earlier. Okay, next, boosting national and local resilience. So recognizing the capacities of women to serve as technical experts, conveners, and leaders in decision making at all levels in terms of food security, climate mitigation and adaptation, disaster risk management projects, etc. Okay, just like what we have mentioned earlier, for majority of the executive roles, executive positions, it is handled by men. Probably it is now a high time that we have to allow women to take the lead. You know, as we can see in this global pandemic crisis, majority of the countries who defeated COVID-19 are actually led by women, right? Taiwan, Germany, New Zealand, okay, all of these are led by women. That is why I was angry when our president mentioned that being a president is not fit, is not cut for women. That is so wrong. Okay, I really don't believe that. You know, I want to go to the to the streets and say, no, you're wrong, and you shouldn't tell that to people because you know certain people could believe it. You know, especially those who don't have critical ability to look at it and analyze it from the critical lens of gender perspective. So that is just so wrong. And I hope we don't hear much more comments like that, okay? Not just in my country, but all over the world. Okay, this is the last one for the future direction. Enhancing partnerships, okay? Expanding, strengthening partnerships with United Nations agencies, especially the UN Women, bilateral development agencies, and research institutions that have already been working on some of the more challenging gender issues. So since, say, for example, we want to enable ourselves to be more gender responsive in our research trusts, perhaps we can establish partnerships with those who are already been doing it for quite some time. And you know, connections is something that helps us, you know, become more successful in our endeavors. Okay. And lastly, in connection to what we were saying earlier about more opportunities for women, have give them more voice, more participation, and definitely leadership. More systematic attention to enabling women's active participation and leadership at all levels through targeted capacity support. And support women's cooperatives and NGOs. I'm pretty sure much the same here in my country, both India and Indonesia have these non-government organizations run by women. Okay, so promote the representation, okay, on projects, steering committees, and government and private sector boards. So meaning those small groups, you know, led by women and trying to promote women advocacies, we should be actually supporting them. If we can help helping, or we can you know, give a helping hand, it's a high time that we do so. All right, so these are the things that we should be directed to, okay, in order for us to actually close the gender gap, okay, and lessen the 118 years that we have mentioned earlier. We need to be more active in our pursuits, okay, in what we do, whether you are from the field of psychology, sociology, social work, okay, chemistry, biology, name it. All of us can always do something. And with that, okay, let me present to you the future discourses when it comes to gender equality. So when we talk about this course, these are the different various topics that we can still look forward to, okay, in order for us to achieve that elusive gender equality. All right. So these are the different research topics, okay, that we can, and actions that we can do, sectoral engagements in the local, national, and international arena. So we can ask questions like, how can we include majority, if not all, of the sectors of the society in various arena in our causes towards gender equal world? Okay, so regardless whether you are from the hard sciences or the soft sciences, okay, you can always include gender as one of your variables. Making gender an agenda. Okay, how can we advocate for a gender agenda in terms of development of regional, national, and local agendas to make changes, okay, across the region in terms of improving conditions of women and everyone else? Meaning, we have to always look at gender equality, gender mainstreaming, gender equity as part of our agenda in our causes, in things that we do in our society. Okay, it has to be part of it. Here in the Philippines, we have this law, okay, um, stating that 5% of the total Generalized Appropriation Act, okay, or meaning the budget of every government system, 5% of it should be allotted to gender and development. So that is why here in the Philippines, I'm quite happy that we are making strides to at least close the gender gap and achieve that elusive equality. But I would still agree that we are far from perfecting it. Okay, so next we have gender-focused research. So to contribute to improve living conditions, research needs to be expanded to cover the socio-economic aspects of national and international development. Not only must all of these components be planned in a gender-sensitive manner, but the conditions for gender equality must be ensured. All right. So therefore, we have to facilitate more research that aims to equalize the gender gap. Okay, and networking. Okay, just like the connections that we have mentioned earlier. In connection, or in addition to that, networking is a way to strengthen capacity, learn from knowledgeable persons, share and exchange experiences. And congratulations to our college right now for doing this, because this is exactly what you are doing right now, the networking. Me and Dr. Yupi are definitely honored to be sharing with you, okay, this event through this networking capacity. All right. And the criteria for change. So to review and establish suitable criteria to improving the living standards of people through gender equality and equity. Okay. Equality is giving the same for everyone. Equity is giving more to those who have less. Meaning, when we are actually aiming and waiting for the world to change, we have to revisit our criteria when it comes to giving more, okay, to those who have less, and giving the same to those who need it. All right. So, who are the sectors of our society that needs more, and who are the sectors of our society who should give more? Okay. So those are the different criteria that we have to, revisit as a society in order for us to move forward. And then another one as a discourse would be training and awareness. This is to encourage support programs to uplift women's living standards through gender mainstreaming, and how it can be realized, how evaluations can be carried out, and how to improve the present and future situation. Meaning, the psychoeducational program that we are saying earlier as one of our future directions should be discoursed by continued training and awareness in all of the sectors in our society, even young as we are up to the oldest people. As long as you are part of the working society, you should be able to be trained and be aware of what gender equality actually means and how to achieve it. Not only for us, the academics, not only for those who are studying, but also for those who are out of school, those who are already done studying, and everyone else. We should be able to reach out to them. All right, that's the discourse that I am pushing for everyone. We have to go to the a countryside, okay, and talk to people, educate them about what they can do and what they should stop be doing in order for us to become more gender responsive. You know, that's the very thing that we are talking about. We shouldn't just be actually talking, we should be doing. All right, so these are my additional references for the presentation I shared with all of you. And this is my contact details if ever you are keen to contacting me in anything that I can help you with. I can be reached out to my email address, arjelmasanda@gmail.com, or through my WhatsApp number, okay, +63 935 4938991. Okay, so just introduce yourself to me and I would be very happy to respond. And I'd like to end it with this quotation from Sandra Bullock, who mentioned that there's no race, no religion, no class system, no color, nothing, no sexual orientation that makes us better than anyone else. We're all deserving of love. And indeed we are. I hope I was able to deliver something fruitful, meaningful, and interactive to all of you. Thank you all so much for participating. Thank you.
Thanks, sir, for such an informative talk. I thank participants who were so engaged in the session and have raised many questions. The very first question I would like to take up is by Simran Shekhawat. She's asking why the involvement of women in defense services like Air Force and Navy is low, and even if it is there, why the importance given is less. If any one of you could address this question, sir or ma'am.
All right, I'll be the first one to share my point of view. Those sectors in our society, regardless whether we are in whatever country we came from, all right, tends to equate to a physical strength. Army, Navy, okay, and one of the stereotypes that are usually afflicted to women, okay, I choose the term afflicted, is that women are less physically strong compared to men. Okay, which I would like to debunk. Okay, if you happen to know one of the first ever gold Olympian medalist here in my country in the Philippines was Heidelin Diaz, a woman. Okay, she is a pole vaulter and a woman, a very strong woman. And what I'm just trying to exercise here as an example is that women, should they want to, can definitely develop the same physical strength that we want. Now, why is it there's so less emphasis, okay, given to this sector? Probably it's the same answer because people are still operating on the idea that these tasks should be carried out by men because of their physical strength. Well, while we believe biologically there are differences between man and a woman, okay, the way we carried out the task shouldn't be equated with being a man and a woman. This is what we mean earlier, that we should, widen up the economic empowerment, okay, and participation of women in all sectors. I hope I'm able to provide a clear answer to that question. Thank you so much, Madam Umina.
Thank you, sir. The next question is by Arshia. Any one of you can take it. She's telling, we are talking about liberalization, globalization, modernization, but why still women are lagging behind? Is the one reason is patriarchal system, which is existing all over the world or majority of the countries of the world?
Yeah, I'll try to answer this. Thank you for the question. I think I forget to mention about the patriarchal system, especially in Indonesia and India. I agree with someone who asked the questions, but yeah, I think the patriarchal systems, especially in India and Indonesia, is still quite strong, and people in Indonesia and India still what is called still take it as a strong value for them to be for them, and they should follow it. For example, in Indonesia, when the woman should get married and having a children, and then after having a children, they should raise a child. And some of women and some of a husband did not allow their wife to go outside and work and having their own job like that. And in some cases, even the husband, their parents also chose the husband for their daughter, so their daughter don't have any freedom in choosing their spouse. So I think, yeah, I agree that the patriarchal system, especially in, I'm not thinking in the Western, it's available in Western, but in Eastern countries, such as our country, it's still quite strong. That's why when we refer to our presentation before, if we see the chart that the gender equality gap is worse in some countries, in Eastern countries, compared to the Western. I think hopefully it will answer the question. Thank you.
May I
Okay.
add something on top of the Dr. Adriani's
Yes, sir,
point?
sure,
Okay.
sure.
Thank you. So patriarchy, take note, is a system, meaning it's not just the people, but it is basically the system. But we also need to realize that we are part of the system. Okay, so a system only works because of people doing it. What I'm trying to say is quite simple. If we want patriarchy to, become driving in our society, we must begin with ourselves by challenging patriarchy itself. Okay, I understand there are certain traditions, customs, and religious practices that we must abide to, and by all means, we have to. But however, if this definitely, okay, if this hinders your ability as a woman or as a man for that matter, we should be able to speak about it. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that we have to challenge the system, and you need to be part of the system for you to change it. And the good thing is we are all part of that system. I hope you get my point there. All
Yeah,
right, thank you
thank you.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir, Masanda sir, this question is addressed to you. How do you place India, Indonesia, and Philippines in the context of gender equality?
All right. Okay. So that's quite a hard question to beat, but since it is, asked, I will do my best to answer. Okay. I have a very limited sources, meaning I don't know much about how gender works in Indonesia, most especially because, I have been in Indonesia only once and I was there only for 3 days. So I haven't, do a lot more things to observe when it comes to gender equality. In terms in India, we were there for 8 or 9 days, if I'm not mistaken, and I also discussed about gender, okay, topic when I was there. So I did some few research of mine. I'm gonna put my country on top, okay, not because I'm from the Philippines, but because just like what we have mentioned, we have some certain legislative measures to actually put forward gender equality. As I mentioned earlier, we have a law here requiring all government institutions to allocate 5% of their total budget about gender and development to make everyone gender fair, okay, and be aware of the different issues. And at least once a year, they always provide trainings for their people to achieve that. And I'm quite blessed and happy that I'm often invited, to facilitate those kinds of training. The next, well, since I mentioned I don't know much about Indonesia, I'm gonna put India next. All right, in terms of our efforts to achieve gender equality, and I'm putting Indonesia third, not because I believe it is third, but because I have fairly limited knowledge about it. But with my knowledge about Islamic culture and religion, I know Islamic religion has a very strict frontier when it comes to being a man and a woman, and definitely we have the highest respect to it. That's why I said earlier, if it is a religious practice, by all means do it, as long as it did not or it does not hinder your ability as a woman or a man for that matter. All right. Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for that.
Okay, then
I'll take up another question. That is by Sneha. Is gender equality a concern for men also?
It should be, okay? My answer should be yes, okay? It should also be a concern. Otherwise, how are we going to stop the subjugation? How are we going to stop the, the disparity? How are we going to stop the inequality when historically wise and data wise, all right, we have men, okay, on top of those who are perpetrating, okay, inequalities against women, okay, and against the LGBT, say for example. But that doesn't mean that men are not at the end victim. There are also cases that men are actually victims of sexual violence, even though it might not be reported much compared to women. But I believe it is also concerned among men. And yes, to answer the question, I believe it should be, okay? Otherwise, we won't be moving forward gender equality, I'm sorry, okay, if we won't see, okay, clearly who is the one perpetrating it, okay? And again, historically wise, it is actually the men. All right, thank you.
okay, next question, sir. In Asian countries, gender equality may still be a concern. However, gender equality in most first world countries is almost achieved. Yet there is a disparity in outcome. It is because equal opportunity, it is not necessarily equal outcome. Aren't we demanding an equal outcome then? How wise it would be expect? How wise would it be to expect equal outcome? Your comment, please.
Okay, my personal comment, my take about it. All right. So thank you, Dr. Momina. I'd like to hear as well the comment of Dr. UP Adriani later. Doc UP, I'm putting you on spotlight.
No,
But
it's
yeah,
okay. The
all right.
question
So
is for you,
all
Arjo.
right, sure. Well, the way I see it, me and Dr. UP has been mentioning not only of equality but also of equity. Okay, you kept hearing that from us earlier. That's why, if you happen to notice as well in my future discourses in gender equality, one of the discourses would be to know who should be giving more and who should be having less, and who are actually receiving more and receiving less within our society. Perhaps what we need to put forward more is not just equality, but also of equity, gender equity. When we say gender equity, say here in India, who is more subjugated? Who is more stigmatized? Is it the women or the, women of colors or the LGBTs or who? So if you're going to tell me it's the women of color, then perhaps we should give more to the women of colors and not just women in general. If you're going to tell me it's the LGBT because they are, persecuted, then perhaps we should do more for the LGBTs. Are you with me?
Yes.
So there might be some situations that it might be the men, okay, for those cultures that are, maternalistic in nature, like a different kind of society that we have. In Africa, I know for sure there are tribes there that are led by women. So perhaps during or in their context, the one being subjugated in terms of gender would be the men. Then perhaps we should give more to the men, at least in that context. All right. But globally speaking, we see that gender disparity through the gender inequality has been persisting. So that would mean as well that our approach to it should be contextualized in nature. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Momina.
Okay, so another question is gender equality, gender equity, and women empowerment same?
No, they're not. Okay. Conceptually and theoretically speaking, they are different. Okay. Gender equality is asking for equal rights, equal opportunities, okay, and equal, how to say that? Equal feelings. Okay, when I say feelings, love and affection for everyone. All right. So that's gender equality. Equity, just like what we said, would be to give more opportunities for those who don't have much. Okay, So it's not across the board. Across the board thing would be of equality, but equity would be, say, if I'm going to give, say, $100, okay, so I have this friend who only have $1, then I have this friend who doesn't have $1, okay, so I'm gonna give, say, more to those who don't have. Okay, so that's gender equity. What's the other one, madam? Sorry.
Women empowerment.
Okay, women empowerment would be more focused on definitely the women. Okay, you know, there is also another discourse. Would be the trans women be part of the women empowerment? Well, from my perspective, they should. Okay, they should be part of it. When we talk about the trans people, you know, those originally born as men, okay, with penises, but then again, during their development, they tend to identify more as women. Okay, they believe they are women, they act like a woman, and they you know, their heart and everything else, their spirit is like they are a woman. Okay, then they are women. That's the certain respect that we give to people. If you believe that you are a man, then I will respect you, I will call you sir. But if you believe you are a woman and you act like a woman, then I will call you madam. So that's just the kind of respect that we're talking about. And I'm not putting here any other concept, but the concept within psychology alone. Okay, so I hope I'm being understood there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think there is one more question for you, sir.
Wow, there's a lot of questions to me. Sure, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. I saw only few people here, but there is a lot of questions, right?
They are actually streamed in other
Oh, okay.
devices. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a YouTube live session, ma'am.
How,
Oh,
how many viewers do we have? Can you let us know?
That after the session will come to know because we have disabled chat.
I see. I see.
okay.
All right.
Okay, what is gender mainstreaming according to you?
Okay, gender mainstreaming is basically a concept that we have to make gender a normal concept that we should talk to. Okay, when we say mainstream, that would mean the normal things that we usually do. So we normally ask people, hey Ravishi, okay, or hey Yupi, hey Momina, how are you? Okay, so that's quite a normal thing that we often talk to. And gender mainstreaming means that normalizing, okay, and not romanticizing gender as something of a taboo. Okay, so gone are the days that I could not talk about my feelings about this guy, about this woman. Okay, this is now the moment wherein a woman can openly talk about his or her affection towards someone else, and that will be okay. It should not be taken against her. Same with the man. If a man says she loves that woman, it should not be taken against him. Okay, because the affection he's talking about is like the expression of his or her gender. Gender mainstreaming means making gender a normal concept, that it shouldn't become a taboo. Like, if I may be bold about it, talking about your penises and vagina should never be seen as something, you know, something lewd, something bad. Okay, as long as the intention definitely is good, because I'm talking about my sexual health, say for example. You know, that's the main reason why teenage pregnancy is quite too much in our countries. I believe it's much the same in India and Indonesia, because younger people, you know, are always sexually active, but they do not want to ask about it. So what happens? Teenage pregnancy. Okay, so that's my point about gender mainstreaming. Thank you, Dr. Mishra.
Okay. One more question I'll take. It is gathered from your session that we need to have a common washroom for male and female, young and old. My question to you is, how safe would a context like that be for our girls and children? Additionally, where do we draw a line? Should we have a common changing rooms?
All right. So there is a difference between a toilet and a changing room, definitely. Okay, let me start there. Okay, that's why if you have noticed in my presentation earlier, the number one, okay, direction that we are pushing forward is psychoeducation. Okay, and the number one discourse that we, or the last discourse that we were talking about, is training and awareness. If you can see, that was the first of my line and it was the last of my line, because for majority of it, education is quite the answer. Okay, you can only do so, what we were saying earlier, to have a common toilet for everyone if people are already well aware that toilet is only for urinating, defecating, and not for sexual matters. Okay, meaning you have to start from the ground, you have to start from the grassroots. Okay, another one, there must be a legislative measure that actually protects people from using all gender toilets. You know, in my country, I do not know any, at least by now, I do not hear any complaints, okay, or cases that happen of sexual violence, okay, sexual assault that happens in all gender toilet. Okay, because people who are using it are actually educated, because they know that it is indeed someone or some a place wherein anyone can use it for urination or for defecating or for makeup or, you know, retouching or anything like that. You know, in my case, since I've been studying in my university for, well, the past 4 years before I graduated my PhD, you know, it's quite a common thing for me. I'm washing there, and at my side, I have a lady, you know, putting up lipstick. Okay. Then on the other side, another lady toothbrushing her teeth. Okay. And I was there washing my face. And we're all good about it. Okay, so to answer my question, first, we have to be educated first. Our society have to be well informed first about it. Secondly, I agree and I should push for it that there must be legislative measure for gender mainstreaming in order for us to become more aware, versed, okay, and aware of these issues. If it happens and it's working here in my country, I don't see any major difference in Indonesia and India why it could not. Okay, we have started it, and I believe we should be keep pushing for it. Perhaps that's something that you can pilot over there in your place. You may start in your university, okay, because that is somewhere where you have a control, especially when this pandemic is over. All right, thank you.
Okay, I'll take the last question. It's asked by Mehek. Does raising gender issue will be considered as an act of feminism?
Is that a question for me, madam?
Anyone can reply, sir. That's
Okay.
not an issue.
Sure. Dr. Adriani, I believe, is ready to answer.
I'm sorry, what was the questions?
Does raising the gender issue will be considered as an act of feminism?
I think that's also a different topic between the gender equality and also act of the feminism. So we should understand more about the theoretical background and also the concept of the gender equality first, and also the what is the feminism actually. Maybe we can discuss it in the future webinar about the feminism. But when we talk about the gender equality, it means that we fight for the same opportunity, same rights between men and women. But it's not an act of feminism. It's a different issue and also different concept, I think. Thank you.
Last question I've received. Is gender equality a Western value?
Sorry?
Is gender equality a Western value, a Western concept?
Oh, I'm sorry, do you mean the difference between the gender equality concept in Western and Eastern?
No, it means we have borrowed it from Western countries. Asian and South Asian countries, if you see, the traditional role of women and men are two different. One domestic, private sphere, another, say, public sphere. So have we taken this concept of equality? Okay, Western countries.
Yeah, we cannot deny that some of a Western value, we adopt some of a Western value as well, not only for the gender equality, but also for other things. But I think, and then people, because have a different background, have a different culture, and then they have their own perception about the gender equality, and they have like when they see, maybe they compare the value or the concept of gender equality in Western society. They see there is more fairness in there. They see there more freedom for the women to do what they want to do, and then that value in Western inspire people in Eastern to do the same thing, to get the freedom and also the fairness in certain role for women and men. Yes, I think I agree that the Western value of the gender equality inspired people in Eastern to do the same thing.
Thank you, Yufi, madam.
To add with that, madam, to add with Dr. UP Adriani's answer, I personally and professionally believe that it is not, okay, an exclusively Western value. Okay, if we're going to look at the history of, at least in my country, in the Philippines, gender equality has always been served to be part of our culture. Okay, I believe it's the same or similar with Indonesian and Indian culture. Perhaps the only blur that we have there, okay, in terms of understanding, I can definitely understand where the question was coming from. It's because the Western countries, have made more strides in achieving gender equality than us, the Asian countries. But I don't think by nature it is a Western concept or value. Thank you.
Yep. I think every people and every country, every culture perceive something that will give the benefit for them to do. So they will perceive something that in the future maybe will have a beneficial for them. So yeah, maybe I agree with Arjel. Maybe it's not fully a Western value regarding the gender equality. Thank you.
So last question, there's one. Even in this modern world where people are so much aware about gender equality and their rights, then what are the problems which stop the state from attaining it and its solution?
Okay, I'll answer first.
Yes,
the very first thing that came into my mind, I'm so sorry to answer this, but privilege. Okay, why do people don't do gender equality? Because they are privileged in their society, because they don't want to get, they don't want to let go of that privileges that they have. If you are a white man, I'm not white. I am a man, but I'm not white. I'm brown, definitely. Okay. But if you are a white man, in whatever culture you are, you tend to have more opportunities. And people who are privileged about it basically don't want to let go of that privileges. So why don't people, even though we are aware of it, but why are we not doing something about it? Because it benefits them. That's why those people who are comfortable in their sitting chair there, doing whatever it is that they do, they need to be shaken up. They need to be, afflicted. Okay. So the concept that I'm trying to say here is that comfort the afflicted and afflict the comforted. Those who are privileged in our society, they are actually the one, standing between us and that elusive gender equality. The social privileges that they get, that we get, okay, is not actually very, not very easy to let go. And I think that's the main reason why, even though a lot, if not all of us is aware in the value of gender equality, why are we not achieving it then? Why do we need to take another 100 years? Privileges. Okay, that's the straight answer you get from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both of you for enlightening talk and passionately answering all the questions raised by the live participant. Now I request Professor Rugma to propose official vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I, Rugma Nair, feel honored to propose vote of thanks on behalf of IQAC and WDC of Royal College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Mira Road. My sincere gratitude to our resource persons, Dr. Yufi Adriani and Dr. Arjun Masanda, for sharing their thoughts and enlightening us on gender equality. It has been a very exceptional and engaging session. Thanks for making us aware of the global perspective and gender-related issues. My heartfelt thanks to our principal, Dr. Vikas Vaidya sir, and Vice Principal Malika ma'am, who earnestly stood by us to organize this webinar. I also wish to acknowledge the efforts taken by organizing committee. The exceptional help and technological support received from Professor Swati and Professor Anushka need a special mention here. My heartfelt gratitude to our founder principal, A. Lakdawala sir, whose guidance has always been a big support at every level of progress in our college. We couldn't have pulled it off without your encouragement, sir. I also thank our student volunteers, Masira from TYBCom, Mehek and Alia from FI-BAF, Musfira from FIBA, who were with us all through the organization of this webinar. Last but not the least, we thank our participants from across the world. Their interaction have impressed and provoked all of us to think more about gender-related issues. We are sure these sessions must have cleared a lot of doubts about gender and future directions on gender equality, or as our resource person said, gender equity. A gentle reminder to all the participants, the feedback link is put up in YouTube chat box. It will be active for 1 hour. We request you all to please fill it up. Once again, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to our speakers for accepting our invitation and enlightening us through their wonderful sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and joining with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
So we'll end the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you again to everyone. You